Hey everyone, Chris and Emmett from the Spartan Shadows podcast hopping in. Wanted to do some post-Memphis MSU basketball takeaways real quick and kind of recap MSU's win over Colorado in the first round of Maui Invitational. The Spartans defeated the Buffaloes 72-56. It was a pretty good effort for the team overall. That earns the Spartans a chance to play the winner of the Memphis UConn game from earlier today, which Memphis ended up winning in overtime by 2 on some wild last-minute free throw shooting and technical fouls and meltdowns by coaches and some other stuff. So maybe dodged a little bit of a bullet not having to play UConn, but Memphis is a strong team too, so we'll kind of break down that as well. I'll give you some basketball overall takes and get you ready for tomorrow's game. So, man, thanks for hopping on with me again.
Oh yeah, no problem. It was honestly, after about the first 10 minutes of the game, Michigan State pulled out to a relatively easy 5 to 7 point cushion, and they later expanded that to about 7 to 12, sometimes blooming up to almost 19, 20 points. It was not close. That said, coming into this tournament, I thought Colorado was maybe the 7th best team at best of the 8-team tournament, and I put in my takeaways article for Shadows. They played like the 9th best team in a 8-team tournament. Just overall, I don't know if to judge this if Michigan State was that good defensively, if Colorado was that bad offensively. Michigan State was that bad shooting threes tonight. They had 19 missed threes, and I would say 14 or 15 of them were very good shots, very open shots, and they just didn't fall in, and that's been a plague of their team the entire year. What were you about to say, Chris?
Yeah, no, I was basically just agreeing with everything you said. To answer your kind of midpoint question there of if it was a little bit of MSU playing really good defense or Colorado playing bad offense, to answer that, yes, it's a little bit of both. I thought MSU played really well defensively today. Defense in general so far this year has actually kind of surprised me a little bit. This team, by and large, has played pretty well defensively for most of the year. That was no different today. I thought they played pretty soundly, pretty well. Run-of-the-mill MSU basketball, as corny as it is to say. They defended well, they rebounded well, they got out in transition and scored quickly and often. When I say out-rebounded, they out-rebounded Colorado 42-29. They didn't really turn the ball over a whole lot. They did have 11 total turnovers, but I've always kind of said if you're living around that 10 turnover per game mark for MSU, I'll take that, I guess. I mean, I'd like to see it lower, but we've seen MSU teams in the past have double that on a pretty consistent basis. I'll take that. And they shot about 50% from the field overall. Just the 3-point shooting continues to be the issue. We were kind of joking before we started recording. If MSU could just shoot 25 to 30% consistently from three, I don't know if there's many teams that would beat the Spartans right now the way they've played in every other part of the game. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, this three ball is not falling, and it's not even been close to that percentage mark. 9.5% today, and other games were similar. So law of averages says it'll even out eventually, but I don't know.
Yeah, other takeaways I had from today were, as a team, this was a very good team-led game. The Spartans put up 72 offensively, and only, I believe, one player went into double digits, with that being Jace Richardson. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris.
Yeah, double figures. Yes, Jace had double figures,
13.
and yeah,
Did
that
anyone
looks
backdoor?
max
Nope.
after that was 9 by Fiddler, and then a couple players hit 8. So yeah.
Yeah, everyone who played a majority of minutes, 10 Spartans, I would say, played a majority of the time. They all scored at least 4 tonight. Kurt Tang, Garrick Normand, and Nick Sanders were all held out of the score column, but they came in for, I believe, 4 or less minutes the entire game, with the first substitution out of them being Kurt Tang with 8:59 to go in the second. So overall, it was a very balanced Spartan offensive attack. We did not see a bunch of Jackson Kohler. He was well contained today, which surprised me a little. That said, they did not contain Jace Richardson at all. 6 for 8 shooting, 1 for 2 from 3, and just everywhere on the court. I believe 4 rebounds, also had a steal, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Should have been credited with a block, in my opinion. I don't know why he was not. It was just, he was a menace to the court, and some people are saying he's moving into the first round of the draft projections, which I would pump the brakes on that. That said, I don't know how much longer we could pump the brakes on that if he goes off for, say, 13 to 15 in the next 2 games.
Yeah, we've kind of jokingly, as a fan base, said that 4 years of Jace Richardson and Jeremy Fears will do this program really well. If Jace keeps playing like this, we're not going to get 4 years out of him. I'll be happy with 2. So he's starting to get some talk among draft people that he's creeping into the first round. With him being who he is and his dad being who he is, I would imagine it'd be hard for him to come out as a freshman and declare for the NBA draft and stick in it. I could see him declaring just to get feedback and come back to school. Why wouldn't you, in the way that works? But yeah, I mean, I think he's got to develop more as more. I see him in the NBA as more of a point guard than a kind of just combo shooting guard is what he's playing. But I think he has the skill set to do that. So it just kind of depends on how he transitions and what he can kind of show off and whatnot. So a couple years here under Coach Izzo will obviously do him well, but he's playing outstanding. He's been our best player so far, so which is crazy to say because Akins has turned it up, and I thought Akins looked good again today. It didn't really show as much on the score sheet. He was 2 of 8 from shooting and 0 for 4 from 3. But some of his looks were, I mean, some of his threes were half down when they bounced out, and I don't know why they weren't falling. But I thought Akins overall brought the energy, and you can tell he's becoming more decisive. So that's good as someone who needs to be our top option in the scoring threat.
Yeah, Akins looked really good, in my opinion. He had he had his 4 missed threes. I would say 3 of them wide open. Another one, he had a turnover because he elected to take an extra dribble because his threes weren't dropping. The extra dribble went off his foot, went out of bounds. Just a bad luck play, something that a confident Akins probably drilled that for 3 and is halfway up court by the time the turnover was called. Another time he almost had a steal, dropping back on a lazy Colorado pass, deflected, it went out of bounds. So he was everywhere on the court tonight. It was a quiet night in terms of scoring, but his presence was felt on the court, which is always good to see. On the topic of Jace Richardson, I do believe he has near NBA level for shooting, but his offense and defense needs a little bit of work, and I think that's just part of playing in the collegiate level for now 6 games.
Yeah.
He is going to be that good. I just think that, and he's going to continue to take steps, but if he's already shooting like this as a freshman, I can't wait to see what he looks like in January and February, let alone if he stays for another year.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you've kind of seen with the Tom Izzo players before. Jaren Jackson's the perfect example. He didn't need to come back. There was no reason for him to play another year in East Lansing, and that was kind of the instance where Tom Izzo put his foot down and was like, "What are we doing here? That's not going to benefit you to coming back." But by and large, I think Izzo realizes that most of the players that come through the program would benefit staying longer. So, I mean, the season's still really young. Jace could become our best option and be our top scorer every night and turn into a lot better defender and have this all-around game, and where he's being talked about as a lottery pick, and that may be good enough. But for right now, I think it's definite that, shows this promise and has the potential, and it'll be fun to watch it develop. Another takeaway I kind of had, stemming on your good offense, bad offense, Colorado type thing. On the plays, MSU was just very alert and methodical in their offense, in their rebounding, and in their transition game. I thought a lot of times Colorado would run pretty good offensive sets that would lead to a bucket, and you see MSU go to inbounds the ball, and all of a sudden they're halfway up the court and you're catching Colorado sleeping, getting back on defense. One play in particular, too, Trey Holloman inbounded and had an alley-oop lob to Cohen Carr from about...
I think he took 2 dribbles.
Yeah, he took 2 dribbles. It was definitely at least 75% of the court away, if not more. It was insanity, and it was a perfect pass right into Cohen, who was leaping for the alley-oop already. I just, Cohen Carr being Cohen Carr.
He had a good game outside of just, dunks. He showed a little bit of that, I wouldn't say outside game, but in terms of For Cohen Carr's range last year, I
Yeah.
would say it's exponentially grown this year because he was consistent. Missed both of his free throws tonight, which was, I would say, the only drawback. But he showed a little bit of he showed a little hook shot too.
Yep.
He looked much improved from the athlete. He went from Cohen Carr the athlete to Cohen Carr the basketball player, and that was on clear display tonight.
Yeah, and I'm going to be nitpicking at this point, but I think Cohen really needs to start working on free throws. I know he's never been the biggest free throw shooter, and that's fine. Some people just don't have the free throw stroke, but if you keep hovering around the 40-50% mark, you're going to see with his athleticism kind of the hack-a-shack strategy against him, because that's a way you could contain him, is just if he starts breaking or if he starts trying to make a move, you just follow him and try to make him beat you on the free throw line, and he won't do it or won't beat you too badly. Hopefully you can start working on that. Even bringing a free throw percentage up to 60-70% will be enough to make teams at least think twice about just hacking him when he gets the balls. Something to work for, I guess. But
That said, just looking at another player who I would say less athletic than Cohen Carr, but in terms of free throw shooting, Mady Sissoko. He was atrocious free throw shooting his first 2 years as a Spartan. By the time he played his final 2 years as a Spartan, I believe he hovered in about the 60% range. Obviously, the not great range, but more livable if they elect to go with that hack-a-shack strategy. So
yeah.
I would give patience on that, but I do completely agree with Chris. He was shooting 46% from the charity stripe coming into the night. That's going to decline with an 0-for-2 performance.
Yeah, so that's all I really had for takeaways on Colorado. Do you have anything else you wanted to add, Emmett?
Besides Colorado, I've said they were poverty schools since we originally landed Mel Tucker from them, and tonight they reminded me why they are still a poverty school. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah, just that last little minute jab in at Colorado. But yeah, that's overall what I thought. I did want to quickly shout out Carson Cooper. I thought he had some good minutes offensively down the stretch, I guess. The game was kind of out of hand at that point, but he was really effective in his post moves and getting the ball down low and driving and kind of taking it down low and finessing some points, I guess, for lack of a better term. He had a nice little back down a couple times into a turnaround hook shot. I just think he played pretty well. 6 total rebounds, 6 points on 3 of 3 shooting on 16 minutes. Sorry, not bad. I thought he did pretty well.
We went straight back to bigs by committee, and it actually worked out pretty well tonight. I would say. I believe Zapala might have missed I think he missed 1 or 2 shots, but of those, I think he tipped 2 of them straight back in. So,
yeah. Yep.
Yeah, our bigs by committee worked.
Zavala played really well. Xavier Booker had kind of a rough game, but he, I guess, pulled it back in the second half a little bit. He was starting to make a little bit more confident plays and did go 2 of 2 on the free throw line, so that's always good when you have a big that can do that. So, but yeah, overall, pretty solid effort from the Spartans. They'll need it again tomorrow, and that's a good transition to Memphis. Like I said, Memphis was able to upset UConn tonight in overtime, 99-97. I kind of touched on it a little bit. There was some craziness down the stretch. They had a pretty big lead in the second half, kind of let it go away. UConn tied it. The game ended up going to overtime on a last-second shot by UConn, and then I think Memphis had another bit of a lead. Then UConn kind of stormed back and took a little bit of a lead. Then Memphis took another. It was kind of really back and forth. And then it got to the point where, I guess to sum it up quickly, UConn was called for an over the top on offensive play, and Dan Hurley absolutely lost his mind and was given a technical. And Memphis made all the free throws from that and all the free throws from everything they got, and that will allow them to take control of the game late in overtime and end up squeaking out a win. So they move on, and we'll play the Spartans tomorrow. Memphis is 5-0. They beat Missouri to start the year, which was a pretty decent win, and they've played UNLV, Ohio, San Francisco, and UConn. So a little bit harder of a schedule than, say, Colorado faced, obviously with UConn excluded, and UConn's UConn, but still not the toughest tests outside of the UConn matchup. They've been a bit of a roller coaster. They remind me of MSU in some regards, where they can start the game off ice cold, go on stretches where they're lights out and make up the difference, go on stretches where they're ice cold, and you can see, they had double-digit leads against UConn today. I believe that evaporated pretty quickly. So MSU, hopefully, if you play a consistent game, can take advantage of that. But you're going to have to play, especially offensively, consistent. And we're going to need to make some threes at some point. Tomorrow is going to be more evident. So that's going to be my biggest takeaway. Going into the game real quick before I let Emmett kind of work on that. MSU is a 1.5 point underdog tomorrow. Memphis is favored by 1.5 points. Tip is at 6 o'clock Eastern time from Maui, of course. So, Emmett, what you got?
Yeah, so heading into this game, in terms of their scorer balance, they are very similar to how Colorado was, with 4 players averaging 10 or more points per game. PJ Haggerty is their superstar, 22.5 points per game heading into the UConn game. I don't believe that dropped any. They are a team that is very experienced. They returned all of their minutes played and all of their scoring from last year's roster. In addition, they made a couple under-the-radar moves in the portal. The main one to highlight is Dane Danger, who that might sound familiar to you. He is a former high school, I believe he played some league ball with Trey Hallman back when he was in Minnesota. And Danger was one of 6 Illinois players to play in all their games last year, averaged 6 points per game. He was a player I considered to be voting on to the all-tournament team by the end of it when media was handed out a voting link, because Danger was an impact player at the Big Ten tournament last year. So overall, this is a team that they have many options. The one thing they do not have is their, cliche 7-footer. The tallest player on their roster is 6'10". That said, Colorado did that, and you didn't see any big takeover. MSU's bigs by committee took over against Colorado, but I would say the 6'10", 6'9" players on Memphis have a higher talent level than that of the Colorado team.
Yeah, they do. I still think MSU's bigs, if they play a decent game, I will say, because we've seen some bad stretches out of most of them at times, but if MSU's bigs come to play, I think they could have chances to exploit some weaknesses down low to them. To kind of confirm some of your saying, Haggerty had 22 today against UConn, was 1 of 4 from 3.
So his average.
Yeah. Now, granted, that is in a little extra time, but it was...
It's UConn,
yeah, it's fine. And then their other guard, Tyrese Hunter, had 26. Colby Rogers had 19, and your boy Dane Danger, 14.
They were all averaging 10 per game coming into that, so nothing changed.
Yeah,
cool.
Those are your scoring threats, and that stayed the same. Memphis does not quite use as much of a rotation as MSU does. That's going to be a case in a lot of games because not many teams often rotate 10 players in, but only 8 players saw minutes today against UConn. I would expect that to be the same unless somebody gets up big or down big. But they kind of go with a smaller rotation. Their starters in Rogers, Hunter, Haggerty, Cisse, and Jourdain are probably going to see the bulk of the minutes most of the time. Might be something to watch for, seeing as they were pretty emotionally and physically tested today against UConn in a longer game. They had the early game, and they don't have to play till 6 tomorrow, so maybe that's a little bit. But back-to-back games against tough opponents, maybe you see some fatigue or a slower start. MSU can hope. We'll see, I guess. But something to watch for there. To me, and I hate to bring this up, it's a lot of tomorrow's game is going to rely on how consistent MSU, or if MSU can make shots from 3 specifically. It sounds really simple, but yeah, the team that shoots more 3-pointers generally fares well. But for MSU, that's just going to be big. You can't go 9% against Memphis and expect to win the game.
Can't go 9% against almost any Power 5 opponent besides Poverty, Colorado, and expect to win. So, it's going to be a good matchup. I don't know if I necessarily have Michigan State winning this, but I think it will be a good test for them. I do believe Tom Izzo played tonight very smart by at points doing a full line change and swapping out all 5 players. I don't believe many of our players had a ton of minutes. Let me pull up the stats. Let's see if they've updated it.
Most was Akins at 26.
Yeah,
Jason
Pierce 23.
Pierce at 23, yeah.
Yeah, so none of our players played a ton of minutes. None of our players played over 27, so I do think that's going to help them, especially considering Memphis had that extra period to go and fight with a very physical team. I think that definitely favors MSU, but I don't know how much that will pay off if the Spartans continue to have their shooting woes. They're definitely dropping back down to the worst team in the country in terms of 3-point percentage after today, and I don't know if that's going to rattle confidence any because you're playing on the exact same rims. It's not like there's multiple campuses in Hawaii you're playing on. So you are going to have to find a way to make those shots fall. They looked fine in warm-ups from everything we saw on Twitter, and then just game happened, and it was the same exact crap we've put up with all year.
Yeah, I mean, I know the team's not lacking in confidence. I mean, you're still
Oh,
shooting, what was the total? 21 threes, and when you're been shooting that bad this season, so thankfully confidence hasn't seemed to waver. I don't necessarily want it to waver in the fact that they need to be able to be willing to take and make threes, but it's I don't have the fix. Hopefully they just start falling. I guess it's not your hard hitting analysis. Um, I know.
They're making bad shots too.
Yeah,
That's the maddening thing. It's not like you're shooting with three people draped on you and you're wondering why did you do that? The shot clock was at 10 or something
yeah,
like that. It is wide open, or even if it's a quote unquote bad shot, it looks just as good as all the other ones that MSU's been shooting.
yeah,
You will have wide open, especially we saw against Samford at the start. All 9 of their shots, where MSU started 0 for 9, I would say 7 of them were good. Same thing tonight. Of the first 7, I would say the first 17 misses, besides the Garrick Normand shooting a couple in throwaway time, of those first 17, those 14 and 15 of those were wide open or late coming on pressure, where I would say 2023 MSU, 2022 MSU, Cassius 2019 MSU, they drill that and laugh their entire way back up the court. And
yeah,
they laugh at the guy who misses the open three.
yep. Well, and also too, you've seen MSU teams of recent history tend to get really bad with shot selection, and that's not the case with this team. Overall,
Not at
by and
all.
large, they've moved the ball around really well on offense. They haven't settled. There's been stagnant times, of course, but for the most part, I feel like they're distributing and they're playing, with pace and purpose, but just not falling. Like Akins can hit threes, Jeremy Fears can hit threes, Frankie Fiddler can hit threes. Kohler's even shown some ability. Booker's shown ability. Jace, obviously, like we have 3-point shooters up and down the roster that can and will make it. Trey Holloman too. And just none of them have really been consistent. Even Garrick Norman and Kurt Tang they haven't got a lot of playing time, but they were recruited specifically because they're shooters and they haven't been making shots. So, Tyson Walker famously shoot to get, I always butcher the quote, but shoot to get hot, shoot to stay hot. And hopefully, some of the alpha scorers on this team can get going from three and play consistently. So, I mentioned it a little bit earlier. I mentioned to Emmett, if we can consistently make threes, this team's going to be hard to beat by anybody, whether it be
For
Memphis,
sure.
UConn, North Carolina, whoever it be. So,
I almost think we need to get someone like Jace Richardson, force feed him into multiple threes. He was 1 for 2 today. I think if you can get Jace Richardson's confidence and offensive ability up to give him like 5 open threes a game, I think that will be a huge spark, and Richardson can turn into a 20-point per night monster that no one wants to put up with.
Frankie Fiddler's the same too. I know he hasn't been playing as
I agree.
well. His offensive touch has been a little lacking of late, but he
So did Tyson when he transferred. Tyson
right.
was ice cold off the bench when he transferred. I remember seeing that tweet tonight too. I forget who said it. Shout out to them.
I think it was
If
cheap.
we find it, I'll try to link it when I'm quote tweeting the podcast later.
Yeah, I think it
But
was cheap.
they said, yeah, because they said Tyson started off cold, Joey Hauser started off cold. If you transfer into this program, I don't know if it's the Breslin rims or what, but you start off ice cold from your normal shooting percentages.
Yeah.
But they will come up with time. Tyson Walker was the guy everyone filed into the stands for and took pictures when he was coming out of the tunnel for a reason.
Yep. Yeah, it'll come, and thankfully that's why I'm kind of glad the schedule by and large in the non-con this year is a little bit easier than what it's been in the past. Hopefully that works itself out before Big Ten play. But yeah, it'd be nice for it to show up in this tournament where now that the two-time defending national champions are out of it, you might actually have a chance to make some noise. I know North Carolina is a good team. Auburn beat Iowa State. You have the 4th and 5th ranked teams there that battled each other. There's good, teams. Hey, one goes down. You had Iowa State have to lose to Auburn. Last I checked, North Carolina was losing to Dayton. Yeah, they're down. They're down 1 to Dayton while we're recording right now. Some of this stuff happens. You get a little bit easier of a route than you expect, and all of a sudden, who doesn't want to win a tournament? But
it's like in Maui title in program history, if they can find a way to go all the way.
Yep,
exactly.
Win
2 more and you get that second title.
Yep, and just winning tournaments is good for the young kids and learning how to win. That's my favorite part of these early season invitationals, tournaments, whatever. You have to play multiple games in multiple days, and you have to do things that you kind of maybe see during the NCAA tournament that you wouldn't in regular play, and that's helpful.
Well, that's tested as well with because you have to rotate. You have to be smart with your players.
Yep. So that's good. It's all good signs. So that's all I really had about Memphis. Emmett, you got anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
No, I think I've yapped enough about Memphis and about basketball in general. I think we should get a score prediction to get on with it.
Yeah, I'll let you go first this time because you said you think Memphis might end up pulling this out. So,
I'll say I think this is going to be higher scoring. I think Michigan State's going to get the 3 to fall more often, hopefully, would be the hope. And as a result, you're going to boost your scoring artificially with getting that 1 more point per possession. So I'd say I'll say Memphis at 80 and then Michigan State 77. I think it's going to be close. Could I see this going to overtime? Yes. Do I think Michigan State might be able to pull it out? Definitely. This is not a Kansas situation. That said, I don't know if the Spartans are going to be fully prepared. Jace Richardson looked great today, but if anything steps back after a full day of rigorous activity, you could see less Richardson, and that could be not having the X factor on the court could hurt the Spartans. So I'd say, yeah, Memphis 80, and then MSU 77. Leading scorer, I'd say give me Akins this time. I think Akins gets his confidence back after seeing how good of his shots were from today's game.
76-71 Michigan State.
That's fair.
I think MSU, I think as well, they're going to start making a few more threes. I feel like it's coming. The shots are too good of looks to not start falling. And
I agree.
Just going to kind of have to go with what I've been saying. If you start making the 3 consistently, this team's going to be able to beat pretty much anyone. And so I'm going to just hope that tomorrow's the day that happens, and maybe I'll be proven right. So give me that. Leading score, Jeremy Fears.
Oh, that's a bold one. That is a bold one. I don't think he's led the Spartans in scoring once.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong, no hate on Fears. I'm all here for it. But Fears is a very good pass-first point guard.
Yeah, he's a point guard.
I was shocked he wasn't at double digits in tonight's game.
Yeah.
I was like, how is this guy only at, I think he finished with 8. I was like, how is this guy at 8 points?
Yeah, no,
Fears he was running the court tonight. He was, after a bad game against Samford, he was back in full force and outplayed Trey Hellman tonight. Yep.
No, same. And so I know he hasn't really led the Spartans, and he's not that necessarily type of player, but he can be. And I think one of those players is going to have to, for us to win a game like this, somebody that hasn't been Jace Richardson or Jaden Akins is going to have to step up and make some plays. So I was thinking Frankie Fiddler, but I think it's going to take a little bit more time. So, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Jeremy Fears. So
fair enough.
That's all I've got. Hopefully we will update you. I don't think we're going to necessarily do full episodes like that. Well, not full episodes, but bigger episodes. We'll probably do a little bit shorter stuff after the game and preview you. It'll be the winner of Auburn and North Carolina if we win. Or I'm sorry, I guess I don't know that. And
North Carolina.
Yeah, the winner of North Carolina Dayton plays Auburn tomorrow, and the winner of that game will play in the championship if we were to beat Memphis, or I guess against Memphis if they beat us. My score on my computer didn't update. Dayton is up 10 with about 5 minutes to go in the first right now. So, hey,
Flyers.
Could be Dayton, I guess. I don't know. But if we lose, we will get, I believe, the loser of that game, potentially. I don't know. I'd have to look at
It'll
the
be
bracket.
the loser of we would get loser of Auburn Dayton. If we lose, I think we get loser of Auburn Dayton
Yeah, I
because
think so too.
I think in the third because we're in the third place game then.
Yep. Yeah, so it'd be, yeah.
Loser of Auburn and loser of Dayton, UNC. Very complicated, whole lot of losing. We don't like that here. Let's just say we're going to win.
The tournament bracket would have been a lot easier to explain had the Dayton UConn game been final, or Dayton North Carolina game been final, but it's still going. So, but yeah, we get at least one more game after this, no matter what. Hopefully, it's on the winning side to be playing for a championship, which will be Wednesday at 5. If it's not, it'll be Wednesday at I think 6 or 7. So, third place game is later than the championship for whatever reason. I don't know why, but so yeah. That's that. And I appreciate everybody tuning in again. And we went a little bit longer than I thought, so I apologize. But thanks for sticking with us. And we'll still get our football episode out this week. And hopefully you'll tune in for that. So we appreciate it. Have a good night, everybody. Go Green.
Go White. God, we went long.